Hey guys, welcome back to Your Story. As usual, we bring you great people to talk to. Today I've got the SVP of Business Development and Sales at Manthan, Mr. Amit Agarwal, who's also written a book called The Ultimate Sales Accelerator, a great guide for you wannabe salespeople. How are you?
Excellent, Vishal.
And congrats on being an author. Is this your first book?
Yes.
What's it all about, Amit?
See, the fundamental premise of the book is that we all are selling.
Yeah.
So if I ask you how many sales owners are there in the world, what would you say?
I don't know how many are there in the world.
There are 7.7 billion sales owners.
7.7 billion sales owners. That means the entire
world.
So everybody is selling.
It's because each one of us are selling either a product or a service or an idea.
That's true. You said your parents are selling.
Yes.
What do you mean by parents of selling?
So, see, I'll tell you, for example, in our case, if we have to ask our kids, I have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they have a very sweet tooth towards Lindt chocolates, which I brought because of my travel abroad.
Correct.
If they are eating again and again, it's very easy to get emotional. What sales strategy can parents use, to influence their children for not eating chocolate? Another example, which is given in the book, where my kids, younger one used to brush teeth.
Never used to brush his teeth, huh?
No, he used to brush regularly. The elder one will not brush at night.
Okay.
So I had to choose an example. Can I share that with you?
Yeah, why not? Please.
So I tried everything. Your younger brother brushes teeth, didn't work. Teeth look good, didn't work. Then I said, Tanish, have you watched yesterday's match? Yes, Daddy. Virat Kohli was the man.
Not the 100 and all that.
Yeah, and I said, did you saw that Virat Kohli's picture was there everywhere? Yes, he was smiling. The cup was with him. I said, imagine if Virat Kohli's teeth were not good, what would happen?
You will look good.
Yeah, that's what he said. And from that day onwards, he has been brushing teeth regularly in the night. So there is a structure behind this conversation.
So what made you write this book? For those of you who are joining us, this is Amit Agarwal. He's written a book called The Ultimate Sales Accelerator. And if you're a startup, you're always on sales mode, raising money, convincing investors, convincing clients, convincing consumers also.
Yes.
So why should people buy this book?
Fundamentally, the premise of the book is to create epic sales. And if you look at from a startup's perspective, my background is in last 9-10 years, I've been startups from bootstrap to Series A, B, C, and now D. Right? And if you look at the experience of a startup across two axes, let's say x-axis you have sales excellence, and y-axis you have product excellence. And there is low, high, and low, high. So there are 4 quadrants, correct? Any organization can find out in which quadrant you are. Are you in low sales excellence, low product excellence, low sales excellence, high product excellence, high sales excellence, low product excellence, or high sales excellence, high product excellence?
Okay, so you put them in 4 quadrants.
Correct.
Okay.
The objective of this book, and this was one fundamental question going in my mind, and it is there in the prologue, right? How can organization move to quadrant 4?
And the quadrant 4 being?
High product excellence, high sales excellence. So what sales strategy can help the organizations and startups specifically to move to quadrant 4? And that is what is unveiled in this book.
It's product excellence
and sales excellence.
And sales excellence.
Correct.
Okay, we have 40,000 entrepreneurs in this country. When you look at all these folks, obviously you've written this book for them. Where are we in terms of sales product development? It looks like India is very good at the services narrative. You're a product company yourself, Manthan. Yes. How do you build a narrative for these people? How do you tell them to build a narrative for their businesses or for their employees or for their clients?
See, fundamentally, that's what, even in this book, the premise is that I read the NASSCOM report, and the NASSCOM report said that billions of revenue in terms of the services revenue. Okay? And how do the software product startups in India create the same and more powerful story which the services ecosystem has created? Correct? So one of the things which I have found, is also borrowed from an idea from a book called The One Thing. Right?
Okay.
We call it niche, which is quite cliche, but I believe that it is a one thing. From a startup to succeed, if that startup is very, very good in one thing, going deep is the mantra which personally I have seen working for startups, and that is the reason why large enterprise specifically are not taking the bigger vendors, but taking the small startups because of their specialization.
Interesting. And you say humans are fascinated by stories. Why?
So, first of all, as you might have also seen, I'm sure, I was told stories from childhood by my grandmothers, and I'm sure, in your case and most of cases, it has been true. And similarly, I'm doing for my children 2 stories a day, even now, at the age of 13 and 10. Okay? So, fundamentally, our brain is wired towards stories. And stories is about only 2 things, relevance and experience.
Correct.
So, if we are able to connect through stories in personal life to kids, how can we connect in business context through stories? So that is also one of the aspects.
It's true. A lot of people are now using that narrative that in the end, it's the story that wins you everything, right?
Yes.
In your case, you said you worked with several bootstrap startups. Do you want to talk about your evolution as a salesperson from those early days to now, where you're part of Manthan, of obviously selling to a global clientele?
Sure.
What is the initial experience like?
So I think one of the things when I started my startup journey in 2010, after working around 12 years in large and mid-sized IT services companies, so moving from IT services to a product ecosystem, just the company was funded Series A, very early stage, 35, 40 people. I think what I have noticed is a lot of these startups, at least which I have worked, they didn't hire sales leaders. They hired people who are holistic.
They hired holistic people.
Holistic. No, so the holistic part is that you have expertise in the area which you represent, and of course you have sales expertise. So that fundamental, you are an expert in the ecosystem. Like my background has been BI and analytics, correct? So if a startup is hiring me, sales is important. Also, equally and sometimes more important is the expertise in the area. The other aspect which I have seen in sales, which is the term salespreneur also, which is fundamentally, are you working as an employee, correct? Or are you working as a CEO of the ecosystem? You don't need to have equity. You don't need to own the company to feel like that. Personally, in startups, I have felt, it has been very fulfilling for me, because when you get that deal, when that client comes in a startup, the joy, is phenomenal.
Yeah, getting the first client is phenomenal. Obviously, it's a lot of hustle. But when you start scaling, your sales processes to succeed includes employees, engineers, of course, a major part of that, your marketing team, of course. And in the end, it's again coming back to the same process of how are you telling the same story differently. Is it because products today evolve so fast that you'd agree with me?
Yeah.
Because features are changing so fast.
Yeah.
So, you look at all these Bay Area companies, they look at 70% of their time is spent on core product, 20% of the time on allied products maybe, and then 10% of their time on the future. Should that be the basis for a salesman's future goals, future thinking?
See, personally for me, when we associate the word future with a sales owner, first of all, there had been a research by Forrester. You might have come across a research called Death of B2B Salesmen, which says that by 2020...
That's because of all the SaaS business,
yes,
right? Yes.
By 2020, 1 million sales owners in US alone will lose their jobs. So that is alarming number. So now, what is the future of sales? And which is there in chapter 10 of the book also. For the benefit of the audience, I'll share it here. From my perspective, the future of a sales owner is a specialist doctor. Why specialist doctor? If you go to a doctor, what happens? Doctor, you will tell some problem, that I have fever or I have pain. The doctor will diagnose not only what you have told, will also diagnose what you have not told.
Yeah. He's selling a narrative. He's not selling the pill,
Correct.
but he's selling you a story. That's true.
And there is the concept of unearthing unknown needs. The word insight has been quite used or misused in sales parlance. However, if we use the analogy of a specialist doctor who unearths not only known needs of its patient, also the unknown needs which the patient is not in. And that is what makes the doctor special, and that is what can make the sales owner special.
Okay, interesting. I want to ask you this. How do they hire the right sales guy? Because, a lot of them think that the IIT, IIM guys know how to sell. I would disagree also there. Because I think like you said, there are 7.7 billion storytellers out there.
Yes.
How do you find the right storyteller for your company? Let me talk from the Indian perspective. Most of them are B2B B2B salespeople out there, B2B startups. How do you recommend them to hire?
So I'll tell you 3 steps, and if they can do that, I can tell you around 90% they will hire the right person. The first is, I have interviewed around more than 1,000 sales owners
in your lifetime.
in my startup career, more than 1,000. And the first thing is, if you get a sales CV, which is 1 page, preferably one side, and maximum 2 sides, so still 1 page, that is first sign. Because most of the CVs I receive are 5 pages, 6 pages.
So it's a simple CV. A salesperson always has a simple CV. And
the person who can't sell himself or herself in the CV, if he or she is able to sell in a simple way in the CV, that is a good sign. Okay. The second approach to this is that you ask the person, through HR or directly, how many times in your sales career annually your variable compensation was greater than your fixed compensation.
So you should ask how much is your variable.
Don't even have to ask that. You have to say how many times, just a filter, how many times in your career annually your variable compensation
has gone up,
was greater than your fixed compensation.
Why is that an important question?
Because see, the sales owners, need to prosper in terms of what incentives or variable compensation they are making. If the salary is, let's say, 1 lakh rupees, and the variable compensation is 1.5 lakh, that directly shows in the future.
That this guy has been generated.
Oh, absolutely, excellent. That is the second one. The third one is a little difficult. If you can do it, great. Whatever they are selling, not what you want, whatever they are selling, let's say the person might be selling something similar or different, you ask that, can you give a TED Talk speech? 18 minutes. 18 minutes. Either you record it or you give in front. Give the TED Talk speech on what you are selling. Nobody will speak in between. Right? If these 3 things are done and you...
So it's interesting. So you're the kind of guy who would bring the guy for an interview and say talk to a team or something.
So as I said, these are not usual tactics, correct? The first 2 are easy. The third one, what I have done is, instead of using the word TED Talk, I have given them that, you please, whatever you were selling, why don't you pitch it to me? Correct? So the TED Talk makes it more exotic or more formal. Correct? But in other ways, it becomes formal. Just ask them to present. A lot of times you get to know the person, whatever they were good at. If they are excellent in presenting that, probability is higher that they will present something.
Very interesting. At what stage should they have a pre-sales person, a salesperson, and an account manager?
Okay, so in the SaaS world, the new term is now the customer success.
Yeah, customer success or evangelist, they have something, advocacy or whatever they call it.
So the customer success, so if you divide them into, let's say, inside sales, which is always needed, sales needed, pre-sales, and then customer success. So when a startup is starting, at that point of time, it is more acquisition. So naturally the inside sales or demand generation and sales are needed. Correct? So as the startup scales, the definition of scale might be different for an enterprise startup, SaaS startup, or to a mid-segment startup. As they scale, the importance of pre-sales and customer success comes, especially customer success, because to me, having led that function in other companies, the customer success is equivalent to 4 roles. Customer success is equivalent to business analyst, plus project manager, plus product manager, plus account manager. So finding a person who is what we say is a very knowledge worker plus a superlative sales owner. Correct? Because the SaaS business is all about growing it, the MRR, in terms of increasing adoption and also cross-selling and upselling. So these...
Interesting. I mean, it's funny, right? This entrepreneurs begin selling themselves.
Yes.
And then they bring in somebody external.
Yes.
So you look for whatever, you've given them a few tips, right? That's very interesting.
Yes.
When do you start defining these roles? That this guy is good at customer success, this guy is good at pre-sales. Do you pick from your own internal team, or do you do, I go out there and say I'm looking for a customer advocacy guy or something like that?
Yeah, see, first of all, now what I've seen is with 5-6 years before SaaS business was an early stage, at least in this part of the world. Right? So information was not there, or people were still learning it. Right? I was also part of some startups during that time. Now, a lot of these roles, a lot of literature is available, a lot of these roles are clear. If a lot of startups start with customer success owners and pre-sales owners upfront. I don't think there is a problem in terms of these roles. The key aspect is defining the metrics, because a lot of them,
Very well said. Otherwise it'll be it'll go haywire because this guy is doing pre-sales, sales, they're marketing, everything.
Fundamentally, because in startups, what happens is sometimes the goodness also becomes the bad part, that you need to be very entrepreneurial. So you need to do this. Sometimes you don't even know.
You want to do everything.
You're doing everything, and the metric is not there. So I think only a suggestion I would have in that context is these roles are relatively clear. Defining the key metrics upfront for each of these roles, so that overlap is there rather than confusion.
So okay, let's quickly do this before we go into the mindset of the book itself. You got to define metrics for a pre-sales.
Yes.
Define metrics for a customer success.
Yes.
Define metrics for a sales.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And there is knowledge out there, or maybe just pick up the book and you'll know.
No, so I think there is absolute knowledge available. And if you look at it from a sales perspective, it is the number one metric is order booking. What net new business you have brought in. From a pre-sales perspective, the one single metric could be what is your conversion rate. So if you submit 10 proposals, correct? How the quality of proposal can be subjective, but what is your conversion rate out of the 10 proposals?
How much is the sales converted?
Precisely. From a customer success perspective, one metric is adoption. Let's say you start a software, if it is initially 10%, 20% over a quarter, or how has adoption increased? The second metric is cross-sell, upsell. If you ask me the number one metric, which is tangible, yet not easily measured, or not measured, which is how many PRs have you done? If the customer success measures only this, because getting a case study is difficult, getting a PR is very, very difficult.
So you're saying internal PR is important?
No, not internal. The customer which the customer success is serving. Let's say
so you want to take it out as a story outside.
Yes, take approval not only as a case study but a PR. Getting a PR requires marketing, communication, everybody coming into picture. If you get a PR from a customer, the customer would be very happy anyhow. The adoption would have been high.
Because that's an open customer share, but most of them are not like that.
Precisely. So I actually maintain that if you have to pick one metric in customer success, it is not even a cross-sell now. It is PR. How many PRs? If you have 10 customers, how many have PRs?
How many have come and told you a story? How many have said your product works?
Yes. And how many have released it formally?
Okay. Now we've spoken about all this. It's just all these activities are function of money. And I need a PR person, I need a marketing and communication person, I need a sales, pre-sales, customer success. We know startups are bound by money. They don't have too much to spend. How do they play around with this? Where do they start?
That is the point which I mentioned. One is about the type of people, which I mentioned that in my experience, a lot of startups which I have worked, they were not hiring, sales just as a skill, correct? They were hiring more of holistic leaders. And if a leader is hired, they can mentor their team in that. The other part is what is also realizing this pain, making the sales process predictable. My fundamental was that, is there something which is not about benefits? It is not even about features. Because according to me, features don't sell. Benefits sell sometimes. Use cases sell.
Yes,
so this book actually talks about a strategy which we can't discuss in the...
Yeah, you want people to read, go buy it. It's available on Amazon.
Yeah, it is available. It is called use case selling. Fundamentally, it is about specific use cases which actually are nothing but stories, as you were talking about. So if that culture is cultivated in a startup where you are not selling features, you are not selling benefits, you are selling use cases.
Okay, I want to ask you this. Automobile example, but you let me know what you call it. The Koreans give you great features in their cars and they sell very well. Whereas a lot of European cars have not been able to crack the Indian market. Why is that?
See, I'm not an automobile expert, but fundamentally for me, even since you use the car analogy, there is, I'll give you a use case in that itself. So let's say when power steering was launched, and let's say I went to buy the car, how will a sales owner approach me, correct? So one option is that he will say, hello, Mr. Agarwal, here is a power steering. It uses the hydraulic, engine where, because of that, the experience is good, correct? So that's one, correct? Now there is another salesperson who comes, he says, Mr. Agarwal, why don't you sit in this car, and let me take you for a drive, correct? And as you are driving, why don't you just move your finger a little bit on the steering?
Oh, it's more of narrative.
What you experience, it is moving, correct? Now, imagine if this, how many miles do you drive? I will say 200 miles, in a week's time. Okay, imagine you have this kind of sophistication. What would your experience in driving would be? Now, this is a use case where the person has engrossed the.
It's intuitive also. You're getting him involved, and therefore the sale could be higher.
Correct. There was no mention of hydraulic. There was no mention of. It was an experience. This I consider. While there is a proper structure to it, 4-part structure. This is what I call as use case selling, which using narratives, the word you use, it becomes more experiential for the person.
Okay. Brilliant point. I want you to tell me this quickly.
Yeah.
They should not get confused between lying and narrative. Tell them that.
Yeah, so there, from my perspective, the reason in this book you see the word experience, not the stories. Right? If you see the back of the book, it says narrates 31 experiences. The reason is because story, while there is similarity between stories and experiences, there is one difference. Stories can be fictional.
Yeah.
Experience can't be. Experience is all the truth.
Reality
is the reality.
So create that.
Create that experience.
Okay. What led you to write in this book?
So see, this was on one particular day. I watched a video from a gentleman. You might have heard of him, Vishal Krishna, Mind Valley founder, a very big company in personal development space. There's a video called 3 Questions for Your Life, and the questions part is what would you like to experience. What would you like to grow? What would you like to contribute? And the viewer has to write. So I wrote certain things in there. In the contribution section, I wrote publishing a book. Right? So the seed was sown that time. One particular day, I was having breakfast with my wife, and this question came because there were so many ideas going for the book. Yet I was not able to finalize. So the question came. Questions are very powerful because they create participation and possibility. So the question came: if somebody asked me, like you. If you ask me what is the one thing that has contributed maximum to your success in sales, what would I say?
Would it be customer success?
The answer was use case selling.
Use case selling.
So if you look at the book says the ultimate sales accelerator, one surprisingly powerful strategy to create epic sales in business and in life. The entire book is about use case selling, which is the one strategy.
Nice. Please, I ask you again, a lot of the entrepreneurs out there take to Instagram, take to Facebook and talk about selling. They talk about their product without having any substance. What would you tell these guys? That take it slow, build the product first, see how use cases happen again.
I think the last word.
Use cases.
Because the use cases also, there is one framework which is given in the book which is called Mount Everest of needs. Very simply put, it divides the needs into known needs and unknown needs. Right? Within known needs, it says known needs which are met, known needs which are unmet, and known needs with resistance to change, and unknown needs. Now, if any entrepreneur divides whatever he or she is creating or about to sell, if they are able to document the needs, both known and unknown, across these 4 categories, that is the first step. And then if they use them as use cases, then the experience will come.
So be careful, guys. Don't go missell, hurt your brand. And then in the long run, people will find out.
Absolutely.
And then you probably not be welcome in the business community. So I know millions of them who missell there, and people only laugh in front of them, but they do make fun of them in the back.
Absolutely.
So, but you might not win any business. So you want to scale, you got to keep it to reality.
Absolutely.
Use cases.
Absolutely.
And that's why your businesses will scale. We talk about Freshworks.
Yes.
We talk about Zoho, 20 years. We talk Manthan in many ways. Right?
Yes.
So you become institutions. And sales is a fundamental way of building an institution.
Absolutely.
And every stakeholder in the organization is actually a salesperson.
Fundamentally. Absolutely, yes. That's I said 7.7 million, which includes all employees as well.
So there you go, guys. It's an entire process if you're creating a sales organization. It's a beautiful narrative. Go check out this book, The Ultimate Sales Accelerator by Amit Agarwal. Thank you, Manthan, for getting us to host you.
Thank you.
And hope to work with you soon sometime.
Oh, pleasure is mine.
Thank you. Last question. What are you reading?
What am I reading? I am reading The 4-Hour Workweek.
Okay, bye. That's a popular book. A lot of people are talking.
Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss also got a podcast, and it's a popular one.
Yes.
Check out the one on Eric Smith. He talks about selling.
Yes.
And Amit, one more thing. Is this available on Amazon? Signed
Yes.
copies?
So the signed copies are available at airport if they are available still.
Okay.
Correct. There are various forums where I'm hosting some of these signing ceremonies as well. The copies are available in all bookstores as well as on the Amazon.
I look forward to having you on your story doing some sales strategy for our startups.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vishal.
Bye guys, we'll see you all soon.
Bye.